Good morning. Thank you for joining us today, and we're excited to welcome you to this webinar where we'll discuss how businesses can effectively achieve NDMO compliance through robust data governance solutions. So at RSM, we are committed to helping organizations navigate a complex landscape of data management and regulatory compliance. Through our strategic partnership with the Adastra Group, which is their global leader in data governance, AI, and digital transformation, we bring together best-in-class expertise and cutting-edge solutions to help your organization in your compliance journey. Together, RSM and Adastra, we offer a comprehensive end-to-end approach to data governance, ensuring organization is not only compliant, but also equipped with the right strategies and tools and frameworks to optimize data management. So we look forward to an insightful session today where we'll explore how we can help your organization seamlessly adopt and implement and maintain the compliance with NDMO regulations. So yeah, let's get started. To the next slide. All right. So the flow of today's webinar will do a quick introduction of RSM and Adastra, and then we'll walk you through the landscape and data management in Saudi Arabia, following with the NDMO PDPL compliance requirements and practical steps required for the compliance. And at any point, please feel free, if you have any questions, please post your questions in the chat. And then towards the end of the session, we'll have enough time to, inshallah, answer your questions and discuss the next steps. Moving along. So about a quick overview of RSM profile, about RSM's global profile. So RSM is a global network of audit, tax, and consulting professionals with strong presence across 120 countries and about 64,000 plus experts. We are the sixth largest global network of independent assurance, tax, and consulting firms. At RSM, we work as an integrated team, leveraging our shared skill, insights, and global resources to deliver solutions tailored to our client needs. So these principles, they guide everything what we do at RSM, including our data governance and regulatory compliance, where we help businesses navigate NDMO frameworks and align with evolving data protection regulations. As for RSM Saudi, we've been in Saudi Arabia serving businesses in the kingdom since 2007, with a strong national presence across 4 offices in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Al Khobar. We have a team of 400 plus professionals here in Saudi Arabia, and we have provided high quality tax, accounting, and consulting services to over 5,000 plus clients across various industries. Our commitment to excellence and quality means delivering work of the highest standard, following international best practices, and always striving to exceed clients' expectation. Our comprehensive services include audit, assurance, tax and zakat, GRC, internal audit, data management, data governance, and privacy, also along with business management consulting, helping businesses navigate through complex challenges and achieve sustainable growth. A quick overview of our awards and recognition. So RSM workplace culture have been globally recognized, earning us Glassdoor's Employee Choice Award for one of the best places to work in 2023. We've also been ranked as #1 on Accounting Today's 2022 VAR 100 list. And also RSM is an approved auditor for Saudi Aramco and the Market Authority, which reinforces our credibility and deep-rooted presence in the kingdom. We were the first firm to issue cybersecurity compliance certificates and have conducted about 3,500 plus Aramco third-party assessment for threat management and cybersecurity compliance certifications. Uh, so that's a quick overview from our side. I'll hand it over to our colleagues at Adastra and Shiv and Nikita. Please, you can share your screen and continue. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Syed, for the introduction. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I believe Nikita is sharing the screen. Thank you very much. At Astra, we are very, very strong partners of RSM in the region. And Adastra Group is primarily a data management company. It originated about 30 years ago in Czech Republic and Canada. So we have our headquarters in Toronto and Prague. I'm joining in from Prague today with you all. So originally, Adastra started as a company focusing on very, very strong roots in data warehousing and data platforms. But eventually, we expanded into various other areas of business intelligence, machine learning, AI, and business consulting, very much around data management and data governance. Our footprint is almost everywhere in the world. Very strong focus in Europe, obviously, and North America, given our headquarters there. But we have offices all around the world, in other countries in Europe, in Germany, in Slovakia, in Bulgaria. We have new offices open in India, in Thailand, in Greece. So we have a very strong presence around the world. And in the region, we are operating together with our partner RSM. We have over 2,600 consultants working in various different areas of data management. And I would request Nikita to move to the next slide. So a very quick introduction about the speakers. So that's going to be me, but mostly Nikita. So I'm Shiv, and I'm the competence leader for data governance within Adastra Group. I have a lot of experience in various data governance and data management projects, primarily focusing on data maturity assessments, creating data governance frameworks, implementing various data governance tools. We have partnerships with almost all the major tools in the sphere of data governance, may it be Ataccama, Informatica, Collibra. And in my personal experience, which is very closely related to the current scenario in KSA, I think GDPR and the Data Act within Europe, I think that closely relates to the situation, how we can help you all in the region. In terms of industries, I have personally worked in banking, in e-commerce, cybersecurity, all in the sphere of data management and data governance, and across various different geographies. So I believe we'll be able to bring that experience and share with you all today. Nikita. Maybe a quick introduction from your side as well.
Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. So thank you, Shiv, for this introduction. And yeah, so my name is Nikita. I'm working as a data governance deputy competence leader for Adastra Business Consulting. And I have a very wide range of experience in different data management projects, mostly focused in data governance, metadata management, data quality, RDM and MDM. And also, like I came from the side of like hands-on implementation and not vice versa, from the strategy to the hands-on implementation. So I know all the operational issues of the data management. And that's why while designing the strategies and frameworks, we consider not only the theory, but operational part as well. And I have experience in the sectors like banking, oil and gas, telecom, healthcare, and others. So yeah, and I will be leading this presentation, but one more slide for Shiv. So back to you.
Thank you, Nikita. Just before handing over to Nikita, a very quick description about how we usually handle various different data governance and data management projects. So I would perhaps get your attention more towards the point number 2, our DAMA framework. That I believe is the key of our overall approach. We are We very much believe in the top-down approach, meaning starting from strategy and operations and going into tactical. And that's reflected in our team as well, that we have consultants who can do strategic things, but at the same time roll up their sleeves and go into the technical details. As Nikita mentioned, he mostly came from the technical side. So we are not only preparing strategies which are we just stay as papers, but we can actually have a whole team who can implement the things hand to hand on technology itself, aligning with the strategic things which we agree. So coming back to the focus of our methodology, our framework, we very, very closely focus on the DAMA framework. The DAMA stands for Data Management International. They have published, or they regularly publish the book DMBOK, Data Management Body of Knowledge, and this DAMA wheel is taken from that. It is very important to also highlight that the NDMO standards are very much based on the DMBOK. So this framework, applying principles based on this framework can make you compliant with various different aspects. And in upcoming slides, we will also try to show you how operationally you can achieve this. Together with this, we look at the overall any kind of data governance implementation, including data compliance. In this case, in KSA, we look at it from the 4P perspective, or the 4 pillars. These are quite generic, but in combination with the 11 knowledge areas of the DMBOK, we try to make it holistic, or we ensure that it is holistic. So the people, platform, policies, and process, those are the 4 pillars. So people as in the organizational structure, the KPIs of the teams, data owners, stewardship, defining the roles and responsibilities of the people. That's very essential to execute all the things to be compliant. Policies and processes are normative documents. Policies are very much focused on the standards and procedures, what you need to do in order to be compliant. And processes are explaining step by step how to achieve those standards together with the people which are involved. And platform, it simply means the technologies and tools which should be used in the area to be compliant in this case. Lastly, just what I was mentioning, that we have a team which I'm leading as I'm the competence leader, which we have people across the board. So not only people who can be understanding the business logic, but also people who can work with the technology. So we can be your end-to-end partner in implementation of any kind of strategic initiative in the area of data governance and compliance. Also, a side note that obviously we are consultants and we are trying to help organizations implement these tools, and we are interested in it professionally, but also as at a personal level, we are very much connected to data management, and we also set up the local chapter of DAMA Czech Republic, in DAMA International in the Czech Republic. So we are actually very much interested in this topic, and we have a good, strong community and for networking and sharing the knowledge as well. Saying that, I would hand over to Nikita, and we will try to walk you through our understanding and how we can help you.
Yes, thank you, Shiv. So then let's get to it. So we're going to have several parts of the presentation today. So the first, we're going to start with the overall overview of the legal landscape and data management in KSA. Then we'll talk about NDMO and PDPL compliance, and then we'll wrap it up with some practical steps for NDMO compliance. And obviously, we're going to leave some time for Q&A and next steps in the end of our presentation. So then let me start. So let's start by understanding the global context of data protection laws. And around the world, there are regulations like GDPR, like General Data Protection Regulation. More probably, most of you have heard about it. That is set up in Europe, or California Consumer Privacy Act that is set up in the USA. And these laws, they're basically setting up a benchmark for protecting personal data, ensuring privacy and individual rights. And these laws, they're not just about the compliance, but they're also about building trust in the digital economy overall. And in Saudi Arabia, we basically see a similar commitment throughout 2 main frameworks that have been introduced, that are Personal Data Protection Law and the National Data Management Office framework. And while PDPL mostly focuses on safeguarding personal data and ensuring that individuals have control over how their data is being collected, stored, processed, and shared. And on the other hand, NDMO provides a broader framework for handling all types of data and ensuring the governance of the data, quality and security as well, but from the higher level perspective. So Together, these two frameworks, they create a robust legal landscape for data protection in Saudi Arabia. So non-compliance with these regulations is not only about a legal risk, but it actually can lead to significant penalties as well as reputational damage. And what is one of the most important things is loss of trust of your customers and stakeholders. And as we move forward, we have to keep in mind that these laws, they are not obstacles, and we should not think about them as of obstacles, but they're more enablers for change and sustainable growth in the data-driven economy. And in the history, we have seen many cases where some laws that have been introduced specifically were drivers for change. And when Shiv already mentioned that NDMO is very much based on DAMA, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But here we just wanted to mention that in our team, we have DAMA certified data professionals, and we can support you with your journey, not only with the theoretical part of the NDMO, but with the actual implementation of it as well. So then, Shiv, maybe like one question here. So from your perspective, what are the most severe risks you face when you're not protecting your data appropriately? And maybe if you have seen any of such risks materialize in real life.
Sure. So if we talk about in Europe, so the GDPR related risks, we have seen materialize several times, which might correlate to the situation in KSA as well. I think recent two experiences which I've seen was one in a cybersecurity company. So they were using certain data sets where the personal data or the PII data, which was not supposed to be used, were used simply because there were no policies in place to not use them, and people weren't aware of it. And the data was used, and they were fined about $15 million because that's one of the things in GDPR. There's the fines for violation. In KSA, I think the fine is up not that high. It's up to 6 million SAR, I think, which is about $1.5 million, and up to some extreme cases of like imprisonment up to 2 years. But the point is that there are some financial consequences which we have seen. That is one, and we saw in one of the banks, it was not so severe, but they were up around $150. Again, similarly, personal data was used for certain things, for some campaign management and stuff. Again, simply because nobody told them that they should not use this. When we talk about economic impact, so it's very clear in case of KSA what it could be, but there can also be more severe, which is the reputational risk, which definitely in the situations which we saw, it actually impacted their revenue because people then lose their trust with these companies that their data is not being used properly. And in case of KSA, another thing which could be some kind of operational risk, that in case there will be NDMO related audits and the systems which will be found incompliant might be requested to stop or shut down. So there can be, in my opinion, there can be these three types of risks: economic, reputational, and operational, which you could face.
All right. Thank you, Shiv. Okay, so let's move forward. So the next part is about Saudi Vision 2030 and NDMO. And basically, here we would like to talk about Saudi Vision overall. So as you know, it's like a transformative initiative that is aimed at diversifying the kingdom's economy and making KSA a global leader in innovation and sustainability. And obviously, even when you hear something like this it's like a common sense probably that data and AI plays a very central role in this vision. And to achieve this, let's say, very ambitious goals of Vision 2030, we need secure, efficient, and innovative ways to manage the data. And this is exactly the place where NDMO comes into play. So NDMO was set up by SDAIA, by Saudi Data and AI Authority, as the backbone of Saudi Arabia's effort to treat data as overall as like a national asset. And it ensures that public and private sector can leverage data responsibly while fostering innovation. And overall, NDMO promotes data-driven decision-making, which is critical for many sectors like healthcare, like finance, like insurance, and etc. So overall, DIA plays a critical role in overseeing the activities related to NDMO compliance. And while NDMO is targeting mostly like public organizations, but also organizations that are engaging with public sector and also organizations that are working with the government data. And in this case, citizens of KSA, the data of the citizens of KSA are also considered to be related to government data. And in this case, if we analyze this a bit more, we understand that almost every organization in KSA is affected by NDMO regulations. So as we mentioned before, NDMO and the domains and the standard specifications, they are very much focused on data management, and they are very much based on DAMA. So if you spend some time and if you do some comparison of NDMO and DAMA, you will be able to find many similarities. But here, maybe again, we already know that it's very much similar, but maybe again it's a question to Shiv. Shiv, how do you think? We understand that on one hand side, NDMO and DAMA, they're very similar and they have very much in common, but how exactly they are different? Why we cannot just use DAMA?
That's a very good question. We get that question often, not only in the case of KSA, but in other countries as well, where we operate, that we always propose this framework or for other use cases as well, not only for data compliance. And the answer is that number one is that the DMBOK is a very theoretical framework. So and the reason is that DAMA International is a non-profit organization with members who are interested in the topic, and it's made up of academic people, professionals. So the book, it's an open source book written by various different people, and hence they have made it as generic as possible. So it doesn't talk about technology. So obviously, technology landscape keeps evolving, and different organizations will be using different technologies to achieve their goals, in this case data compliance according to the standards according to NDMO. So just by reading the DMBOK or just by trying to apply, it will not be sufficient just to have the theoretical knowledge. That's number one. And secondly, NDMO standards are also very much focused on the privacy of the citizens of KSA. And in DMBOK, the data protection is not so heavily discussed, since it's very much focused on data management overall. So you'll find very deep discussions about data architecture, data integration patterns, and data warehousing and business intelligence. But PII data and data privacy is not the most focused topic. So in these two ways, just by focusing on the DAMA framework and DMO, it will not be sufficient. You need somebody who has implemented those theoretical frameworks in reality.
Yes. So basically, yeah. Thank you, Shiv. So to summarize, NDMO is very much adapted to the KSA, and it's more of a practical thing than just theoretical, and it basically gives you a sequence of very operational things that have to be applied in your organization to be compliant with the law. Okay, thank you very much. So let's move forward. So then the next part is about NDMO and PDPL compliance requirements, and let's talk about it a little bit more in details. So when we're talking about the standards that are a part of NDMO, we can find there 15 domains that are covering different areas of data management. And if we start with the first one that is related to the data governance, which is key to enable you to extract the value from your data. So if your data overall is not governed and you don't know who owns which data is stored in which system, how long this data should be stored, etc., then probably you won't be able to work efficiently with the data and to be able to monetize or extract any value. It's also about assigning the specific roles and setting up specific policies and processes in terms of the data governance. And the second part is about data assetization, and this I would say is very much a foundation of the data management overall. And here we talk about the things like data catalog and metadata. So it's about the repository of all the data assets that you have in your organization, and it's not only limited to the data catalog, but it's also can be like enhanced by reports catalog and can be enhanced by business glossary, etc. So basically all the different metadata repositories that you can enable. Data quality, it's mostly about ensuring that your data is of the highest quality according to different data quality dimensions, and other things related like to data operations, document and content management, data architecture and modeling, and reference and master data management. Then, from considering data as an asset, we're moving more towards the actual usage of the data. And here I would say that the most historic, like the most important piece, as we think, is BI and analytics, because this is a way how you enable data-driven decision making in your organization, because you basically move from unstructured decision making to structured decision making by enabling BI and analytics. But also there are other parts related to data sharing and interoperability, data value realization, and open data that focuses on making sure that some data is available to the public to enhance transparency. Another part is related to data classification and availability, and here we talk about the freedom of information and classification of data, which is in a nutshell ensures that all of the data is broken down into some buckets by, let's say, criticality. Well, I'm just like using this word criticality, but in fact you can imagine this as like the categories of data, like strictly confidential, public, etc. And why we need to do this? Because different data of different categories has to be stored and protected in a different manner. So, and it's very important to understand as well and make sure that you implement the right protection measures. And the last part is the data protection piece. So here we have personal data protection, and this is like NDMO gives only like the high level information. And this is very much a reference to the PDPL, which gives us a very like hands-on principles, what needs to be that needs to be adhered to and needs to be implemented in order to protect your personal data. But it also covers the area of data security, which is like a wider scope. So it's not only talking about the personal data overall, but wider security standards. So this is how the NDMO domains are being structured, and this is like the highest level of NDMO. So this, when we're talking about this, like 15 things, these are the domains, but inside of the domains, there are like hundreds of there are many specific standards and specifications that specifically have to be applied in your organization. So then let's move to the implementation plan. So overall, when we're talking about the timeline of the implementation, we all understand that implementing such a comprehensive guideline, it's not an overnight process, and it definitely requires planning and execution over time. So the plan of the office was to set up like this NDMO compliance in 3 years. And basically, if you go through all the specifications, all of them are broken down into three priorities, starting like from P1, P2, and P3. And if we look at them, and when we're talking about year 1, year 2, and year 3, it basically starts from the moment that the organization starts starts collecting, storing, and processing the data. And when we talk about, so here you can see the top domains that we have, we're considering for P1, P2, and P3. This was calculated based on the number of specifications from the domains that have to be applied or this or that specific period. So for example, you won't be able, like if you're not able to see some of the domains like here, it doesn't mean that they're not considered. It just means that their weight is lower compared to other ones. And from this, we can see that in P1, the top domains are data governance, reference, master data management, and data sharing and interoperability. And here we have to implement 76 specifications. So while P2, I would say, is like the heaviest thing, because there we're talking about such things as data architecture and modeling. And from our experience, we understand that to ensure proper governance around data architecture and modeling, it's one of the most complex thing in the organization, because usually when an organization grows organically, it just grows without any proper governance processes around this growth. And it's very much about not just like inventing some kind of like documentation or process, but also changing the culture of people. And the last thing is P3, and I would say that it's the easiest one, right? It only has 16 specifications. But in this stage, we consider the organization should be already mature enough to start working on the things as document and content management, data catalog and metadata, and such things as freedom of information. So again, here I would probably ask a question to Shiv. So Shiv, what domains do you think are the most like quick win ones, and what domains are the most challenging ones from your perspective?
So it's a tricky question because the office has created these three priorities, and logically thinking, we should go priority number 1, 2, and 3. Although in reality of application, because we have done something similar implementations before, and not just creating, we are not only talking about creating the documents around it to call ourselves, let's say, paper compliant, but actually being compliant. So data quality and data catalog, let's say, or metadata management and data quality areas are usually should be done before doing reference data management or other areas. And they are the easier ones to do it, because first, there are many tools available in the market which you can like purchase and start working with it. Secondly, this creates the foundation, because having metadata management or having some data catalog business glossary, you actually know how much data you have in the organization. Then doing data quality, you know, is it good, is it bad, and try to start quantifying it. And then start doing more complex areas, which are usually in P1 and P2, like reference data management or data architecture and data modeling. They're difficult to implement. So the quick wins, even though they are in P1, P3, but we would rather suggest to start with that in even though it's in P3. Then in terms of challenging ones, as mentioned, the data sharing, interoperability, and freedom of information, they are more challenging, simply because it requires much more technological enablement and culture change. Freedom of information, so to be able to allow people to be able to have their information available to them when they need it, or even regulatory authorities, you need to actually create some kind of workflow or pipeline of data transformation to be able to make that easily available. This is very challenging. And in GDPR, something similar is there. It's called right to information, where people can come and say what data you have about me, and please provide me in a standardized format. And there are usually some timeline in which you have to provide. And we have done some implementations like that, and they can take some time. And this definitely cannot be done just by writing some policies and using some business processes, because it will just take too much resources if there is no automation involved. It will just not. It will be too expensive. That's the point. So to summarize, I would say data catalog and metadata, and the data quality one would be quick wins. And it will also drive not only the mitigation of the risk, but actually opportunity, because people in the organization will know what data is there. They can use for business intelligence. If there is bad quality data, then you can also start taking some next steps associated with it, not only about compliance, but actually bringing value to your organizations, getting some budget allocations more than needed. Often we see in many organizations coming to us with that they usually don't have much budget and they want to be compliant. But using this, you can use it as a tool to talk to stakeholders that it's not only about like ticking the box, but actually it can bring more value to our organization. So let's allocate a little bit more budget than just to be paper compliant.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, agree. Thank you. Okay, so then the next thing we'd like to discuss quickly, it's about NDMO data standards and PDPL. So if you remember in the beginning, I've mentioned that, so these are like the two things that form a regulatory landscape in the field of data in KSA at the moment. So how exactly like they align, or how exactly they're different? So while PDPL focuses on protecting personal data, such as like, for example, as Shiv mentioned, we have like the same, almost similar part in the GDPR, like ensuring consent before processing our customers' data or enabling individuals to access their own information. But NDMO takes a broader view. So, for example, both frameworks have some part that emphasizes cross-border data transfer policies, ensuring that sensitive information either like cannot leave the premises of Saudi Arabia or should be adequately protected. And both of them ensure like robust incident reporting mechanisms to manage breaches effectively. However, NDMO, it goes beyond and it goes further by addressing organizational level governance for all types of data and not only the personal information. So this defines actually, if we look, like if we take a closer look at the specifications of NDMO, we'll find the pieces where we need to make sure that we know who exactly owns specific data set in organization and who exactly is making sure. So, for example, that the quality of this asset is high. While when we're talking about like PDPL, so if you also remember, I've already mentioned before about the data classification, that there is a part in the NDMO that covers the data classification from more like higher level, but how exactly this classification has to be implemented, this is already a part of like PDPL. So you always have to consider both of these. So you cannot only say that, well, we're compliant with NDMO, and that means that we don't have to be compliant with the PDPL. It basically works in a little bit different way, that by establishing the NDMO practices, you're moving your organization closer to being compliant with PDPL as well. But you have to ensure that you're going on the like lowest level of detail, and to ensure that you're compliant with both frameworks at the same moment, to make sure that you avoid fines and reputational risks in the future. So then, about the importance of compliance. So this is like a very simple slide. I think that we have already mentioned about the enforcement part of it, so that NDMO can conduct ad hoc audits on selected entities to make sure that they're compliant, and violations of this compliance can lead to the fines up to 6 million SAR. But here we also would like to talk about the benefits of this compliance. So if you remember, I mentioned in the beginning that we have seen many examples where the laws have become the driver of a positive change. And we encourage you to think of this compliance not only from the perspective of like tick the box compliance when you're just compliant on the paper, but actually about extracting more benefits of this compliance and what benefits it can bring, that overall the economy and the organization on the KSA market are going to become much more mature and advanced in the field of data. And when we're talking about this, it means that the companies are finally going to start thinking about the data as a strategic asset, and the companies will start discovering more and more cases where the data can generate insights and generate more revenue and generate more monetization use cases as well. We're going to tell, it's obviously going to influence the security and privacy, because when you understand that the data is more and more valuable, you obviously would like to protect some asset which is like of the highest value, right? So let's say that if you have like a very expensive car, most probably you will try like to protect it and to park this car somewhere like in your garage at home, and not just to leave it outside, because obviously the more value the asset brings, the more protected it has to be. Then in order to make sure that you are able to generate, your data is able to generate value, you need to understand who owns this data. You need to understand transparently the process, how this data is being processed. And you need to make sure that you can trust this data in order to make decisions based on this data. So overall, this all brings us to the point that we should not only think about it as an obstacle on our way, that there is just another like law that we have to be compliant with, but it's actually an attempt of SDAIA and NDMO. There is an attempt to change the market, to change the culture, and to make sure that from the data management perspective, organizations are becoming more mature. So, Shiv, if you would like to add something just on the benefits of compliance.
I think, Nikita, you covered very, very well. I would just say one thing that what we are observing from the requests which we are receiving recently is very much of the type that let's see it, or it's been seen as an obstacle in the sense that let's make us like some compliancy using, let's give us some boilerplate papers from other organizations and we can become compliant. Well, it is possible, certainly, but you might get into trouble later when some audits will happen, because it's simply not as, having some papers in the organization, but actually, as you see, it requires not only some papers, strategic papers, but at the same time, some operational implementation, changing of the mindset, people acting in certain way, because it's not a one-time compliance. It's a journey. People have to change their approach. It's a change management as well. Because like Nikita said, this is not just another, it's not just it's not to make a blocker for the people, but this is according to the vision, the Saudi 2030, to make Saudi more digitalized and use data as a strategic asset. So that's all I would like to add.
Great. Okay, thank you, Shiv. All right, and then let's move to the next part about the practical steps for compliance with NDMO. And here we have prepared such an interesting slide for you, where we have tried to structure the business value versus severity of compliance, like some kind of like metrics, right? And each domain was considered according to the expected value and the business would gain from becoming compliant with this specific domain, and how critical they are in terms of like compliance efforts. So, and the weights, how critical they are, we calculated it basically based on the number of specifications that have to be applied in terms of some specific domain and standard. And obviously, there is like a part of this metrics that you can see here. It's obviously has some subjective part, but it's also based on our experience from implementation and strategy projects that we have done in the past. So if we talk about the highest severity of compliance and highest business value, we have the group number 1, which is talking about the data governance, personal data protection, data security, data classification, reference master data management. So we're considering that they are going to bring you the most business value, and also at the same time they are the highest severity of compliance, because they have the most standards and they're the most complex. And it means that even if some standards and some specifications are not implemented or broken, we're considering that you're already not compliant with this. So this is the first category. The second category is moderate business value and compliance severity. So this is the circle in the middle that you can see. So here we have most of the things about data catalog, about data quality, data architecture, and modeling. And this is a big bucket of things that we're considering to be somewhere in the middle. What is very interesting is the group number 3 that has business intelligence and analytics. And if you remember what I've mentioned before, that we're considering that this is a very essential part of having this mind shift from unstructured decisions to structured decisions. And we really believe that this should be one of the top priority things for your organization if you don't have this BI and analytics built at the moment. And it means that you're basically either making decisions based on your intuition, or you're just trying to collect bits and pieces of data from different places and then try to make decisions without making sure that you have some structured approach to collecting this data and analyzing this data. it's like it's going to bring you the highest business value. But from the severity of compliance perspective, we don't have that much specification in this field. And the last thing that we're personally considering as the lowest business value and lowest severity of compliance are the two things that are related to making sure that our data in the information is available to the public. So overall, when we talk about these metrics, I would say that this is like an we already like started talking about this a little bit when we were talking about P1, P2, and P3. And this is like an alternative to the roadmap proposed by the, no, not an alternative, but it's in our vision, let's say, it's, of this like P1, P2, and P3 implementations. And obviously, our advice is to follow the proposed recommendation of NDMO. But when we are trying to, but this like map in a nutshell will help you identify what of these areas are going to bring you the most of the business value and where to start with. So I would say that, Shiv, if you would like to add something regarding this slide.
What I can mention was in reference to one of the points I was mentioning before that definitely one way to go is going through P1, P2, P3 in the sequence. But certain things, if you'll do it a bit earlier, like if you will take the data catalog metadata and data quality a bit earlier, benefit number one is that if you will be able to do data classification and PII protection or personal data protection better because you can classify on a tool. Often organizations try to do it, on Excels, which is very, very difficult and not scalable at all. And data quality will actually give you, and you will also have a inventory of all different data assets which you have in the organization. Secondly, data quality, again, in this chart, we have not put it as this because it doesn't have the highest severity of compliance, but it will help you see what good or bad data you have and how you can use it. And again, get budget from stakeholders, because you can say, look, we have a little bit issue with the data quality, and if we really want to use this data properly for our organizations, let's allocate much more budget for this instead of just little compliance budget, which is usually smaller.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think that's it from the presentation perspective. So I think that our presentation overall give you a very good introduction and understanding of what is currently happening from the regulatory landscape in terms of data in KSA, and some understanding of PDPL and the NDMO, how exactly they're interacting like with each other, based on what NDMO is built, why exactly NDMO is needed, and what benefits NDMO brings, and also some parts of like the business value on different domains of NDMO. And now I think that we'll be ready. We'll move to the Q&A session, and we'll be ready to answer your questions.
All right, so I think there are a few questions that some of the users have posted in the chat. So we can start with that, and everyone else, please feel free to post more questions if you have anything you wanted to ask. All right, so starting with Mr. Mohammed Lashin. He's asking, are these standards applicable across all data sources within the organizations, like including transactional systems such as ERP and billing, or they're exclusive for analytics environments such as data lake?
It's a very good question. So according to the standards, they apply to the entire data lifecycle from sourcing of the data until they are utilized in some form of BI or advanced analytics, AI, whatever it is. So the answer is not only analytical systems such as data lake or data warehouse, but also the transactional systems such as ERP. Although I do understand why such question is raised, because it's much more complex to govern the data which are in the operational system, simply because of the complexity, how such systems are built and their backend databases. So it would be good to start with the analytical systems, obviously. And one way to, it will, and then expand it to the operational systems. But one way to justify during audits and stuff, saying that most of the data which is on the operation systems, perhaps we are not using it in some way. Most of the data which is used is coming to the analytical systems anyway. So we have started with that because we replicate the data and create copies and stuff. So we are starting here, but it's in our plan of next 2 years, 3 years to enlarge it into transactional systems as well.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for answering that. Another question from Mr. Muhammad Yunus. We have a problem of cultural change, which is sort of an obvious thing, like for someone who is implementing this sort of practice. So, could you share some of the experiences, how to handle the importance of PDPL and data standards within the organization with respect to the cultural change?
So this is the most difficult part, actually, of any kind of compliance. Technology, perhaps there are a lot of people who understand technology and are able to implement a lot of things, but cultural change, I do agree, it's the most difficult part to change the mindset of the people. So here, as you pointed out, processes and policies play a very strong role. So if we refer back to our 4 pillars, like people, process, policies, and platform. So I would even say that not only process and policies, which definitely either you can create internally, or you can take advantage of like external consultants such as us. But the point is that they should be combined with the people part, meaning changes into how to say KPIs of the people as well. So that's one approach, to have like this top down, that people are then motivated to do some additional work on top of their daily work, because you have to have ownerships and stewardship. Their roles and responsibilities should be defined, and that should be reflected in the policies and processes, of course. But simply creating the policies and processes would not suffice. People need to be motivated. That's one way to do it. Having the right KPIs, assigning them the roles of data owners and data stewards, and then teaching them. That's one way. And second way is perhaps more voluntary, which is more difficult. But in some organizations, you can pick the right people, usually from finance department, or if you're a financial organization, then could be somewhere from risk department, who are more users of the data, and they actually have a daily impact on their work, and get their buy-in on a voluntary basis, that if they will start improving the data governance processes and data quality, and start cataloging the data, at least at the start, so they can start doing these things voluntarily, then they can be sort of the champions, because they will see the value, and they can utilize their experience to show off to the rest of the organization that, look, it works. So you should also support the data governance team, or whichever team, GRC team, which is trying to implement such things. So these are the 2 ways I would say. One is like top down, that management tells, no, it's your KPIs, you must do it, or voluntarily identifying some people who have the highest impact, and then get their voluntary participation in this.
I would probably add like just one point. I was thinking about the answer. I think that while Shiv was covering it, he covered all the pieces that I wanted to give you as well. But maybe one more thing is about quick wins. So we all understand that, like, as we also like discussed, right, that becoming compliant within DMO, it's like a 3 years journey, like at least, I would say. And we also understand that there is a need for some investments. But in order to get this buy-in that Ship was discussing, we can first show to the business, especially to the business, some quick wins that we can gain from implementing data governance and data management. And as simple as that someone from the finance department, maybe at the moment, is really struggling with reconciliation of financial data between several systems. But while the tool is like there, and we first starting with this specific use case, we can just do it like in 1-2 months, and we can already prove the value that whatever is related to data governance and data management, if implemented correctly with the proper approach, with the proper platform and process around it, it can bring the value to business. And then we already get to the point when when we get the buy-in, and we get some business department that is becoming our so-called data champion and helps us to move forward with the implementation of such things.
All right. Thanks, Nikita and Shiv, for that answer. Another question, what's the final value that government entity will get after implementing each plan like P1, P2, and P3, and how that supports entities with their in AI field?
So I would start, and then perhaps I would request Nikita to also provide his experience. So overall, there are some key benefits would be, I'll divide it into two parts. One is how overall benefits and some specific to AI. So overall benefits are there that you have higher control. You know exactly what you have in the organization. Then once you know that, you can use it to create different data monetization strategies. Meaning, if you are realizing that there are too many data quality issues, business is not actually able to use the reports. Maybe many BI team members are manually creating ad hoc reports. So again, you can start thinking that maybe if we do better data modeling or if we have better data catalog, we can reduce the time and effort of these people who are working on these ad hoc reports and creating them. Another could be that you realize that most of the reports are actually not very usable. There are a lot of workarounds, so you can start creating better reports. So overall, the idea is that you can utilize the data better. Exact monetization use case is really depending on the organization, how they want to do it. And it's difficult to answer generically for all the industries. But basically, you're able, I just gave an example of shortening the time and using using the time and effort of the analytical, power in the organization efficiently. Other things could be maybe for marketing area, you are able to do better marketing campaigns, for example. And if you have better data quality, you can again foster. Then going to the AI part, if you have better data quality, you will have more confidence in the machine learning algorithms or the models which you will deploy in future. The biggest problem with the AI projects is that we just don't know how this data is going to behave. And once people start actually collecting data and start creating the model and start doing the testing on it, then they realize, well, we wasted some money in creating those AI models. They are actually not usable because the confidence level or the R squared value, whatever it is very low. So it's not usable. And another thing would be in many AI projects which we see, there is no automation. So many times people start doing POC and they manually capture the data somehow, create their models. Maybe even the results are also okay. Maybe data quality is fine, but there is no automation. So again, it's not scalable. Automation meaning you need to start capturing the data from source until wherever your AI model is there, and so that it can be used properly. But it's simply not there because maybe the data architecture was not defined properly. So now you want to do some real-time marketing campaign and you simply don't have streaming data. So why even bother with such use case? So I would say in AI part, it's more about the automation. You will at least understand that you have that data architecture ready or not, and if it is yes, then if the right data quality is there or not.
All right. Thanks, Shiv. Another question from Al Mahdi Usman. Yes, we will share the recording at the end of the session with everyone. Next question. What's the role of MDM in NDMO?
All right. So I would say one of the most important role would be getting so this is about analytical MDM rather than operational MDM, what I'm going to answer. And if you have the analytical MDM, that means that one of the focus entities could be customer. And the customer that obviously would be the citizens of KSA mostly. And the focus is that you will know after the MDM, if implemented correctly, you will have unique customer records of the KSA citizens, and then you can classify the information accordingly. If this information is in which systems, if you have the proper metadata allocated to it, and you will also see you'll be able to do the PII classification properly. The freedom of information. If somebody will ask what information do you have about me, it would be very fast for you to identify because you have the unique understanding of the customer. Maybe also I would ask Nikita to add a few things because Nikita has a lot of experience in the MDM area.
Well, yeah, I think that you've covered it like pretty well. I think that the most important issue that we always see like with MDM is about, so it's like the most common use case. It's about the duplication, but in case like there is like some unique ID that you can use, this is like a less priority. But what is very important that, as we all know, we build most of the organizations, they build lots of like analytics based on their customers, right? And that's why it's very essential to have their customer data and other key critical business entities data of the highest quality. And in order to set it up, this is not like a very straightforward process. That's why it's like separated from as a dedicated knowledge area, right? Because when we're talking about the customers can originate from many source systems, and we don't know what is the actual and single golden records of this customer. And that's where MDM like comes in. And it's not only about like the customers is the most common use case. That's why we're talking about it, but it's also about other entities as well. And when we're talking about MDM, it can be as well like employees, it can be as well like business locations, etc. So it's like a wider topic.
All right.
So yes.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so for the next question, we're just choosing few questions that we can answer. And then if for any questions that just to keep the time in mind, for any questions we couldn't answer on the call, we will just basically send you an email answering your questions along with the details around the webinar. So another question from Mr. Rohit is NDMO majority for government organization and not for private companies?
So how it's defined is that it's not based on the origin of the company, but rather any organization which is working with the data of the citizens of KSA. So Nikita, if you can share the screen back. Yeah. So this is about the data of the citizens of KSA. So if the private organization is gathering and storing the data about the citizens, then it falls under the scope.
All right, thank you. And who could be the approved cloud providers hosting for hosting for hosting government and regulated data in KSA? So I think to answer to that question, we there has to be they have to comply with the regulations set by the SADAIA, so any cloud approved cloud service providers. So from off the top of my head, there are few that are approved, like for example, specifically Alibaba Cloud Services Saudi Arabia, Google Cloud Saudi Arabia, Oracle, Microsoft Azure Saudi, and there is STC Cloud from Saudi Telecom Company, and there's also, I think, Neon Cloud. So there are a few options that you can use to host those, to choose a approved cloud provider here in Saudi. Another question, how does NDI work with NDMO standards? So NDI is basically it's a tool like to monitor and evaluate it's an evaluation tool that assesses your progress in terms of various tracks in the government entities, providing for example, there is tool in NDM where you assess the NDI where you assess the data maturity of the company across the the 14 domains. So there are they've set out a rules like in terms of how you can score a certain organization in all 14 domains to assess their maturity level. So basically measuring the entity's commitment to implementation of data management and personal data protection, published by the standards published by the NDMO office. Sorry, I'm just going quickly with the questions so that we can cover everything within the given time. Shiv, another question that I think you guys, Shiv and Nikita, can answer. So which tool is better for NDMO? Is Informatica best, or Ataccama, or Collibra? So over to you guys.
This is a very difficult question to answer, but I will try. We have experience with all three of them and actually more with Elation, Atlan. There are many new up and coming tools in the market like Daviso, and they are very, very different in terms of pricing and their model of pricing and licensing, which is a very important factor to actually consider, not only from their capability perspective, because budget, right? Different organizations have different budget. So that's a factor. But anyway, coming back to, if we talk only about functional specifications of these different tools, I would not be able to answer which one, pick this one and you will be compliant, because almost all the tools, I would say they're comparable in the sense that they have different functionalities. If we talk about the main ones, the metadata management, data quality management, data security related things, they're all there in almost all of them. MDM, I think, is in Informatica. MDM and RDM is in Informatica and Ataccama, but Collibra, I think, doesn't have that. Data quality, for example, is in Ataccama and Informatica, but in Collibra they have a separate server, so it's not very integrated with the tool, but they have very good data marketplace for metadata management. So there are many factors to consider, and the ideal way for you would be to really run a proper RFP, have a functional specifications of your organization, because it also depends on your data sources which you want to connect in the beginning. Some tools work better with some data sources, some tools work better with others, and you should really define this in your functional specifications for running the RFP. Also, please do as part of the RFP, please do like the demos with the tools, ask questions, because maybe we will say less Ataccama is better, but maybe you find it more comfortable working with Collibra because it has better connectors, the UX UI is more suitable for a company culture. It can be, or you can go with Daviso, which is much cheaper. They don't have data quality, but right now your focus is just on metadata management and document and content management. So how I would really not say that one is better over the other. I would say that try to write down all the requirements within your team from your organization, and please not only talk only to your data and IT teams, also please try to involve your business teams, because in order to scale things up, your data governance team will not be able to catalog all the data, write all the business terms. It will not be possible, especially for the large organizations. So please involve your business teams as well, because they will have to take the ownership of the data and stewardship. So sorry for not giving a very direct answer that this one is the best one and pick that one, but more wider answer. And I'm sure Nikita has something to say about it, as he has implemented many times various tools. So if Nikita, you would like to add something.
No, Shiv, I think that you covered it pretty well. I have my personal preferences as well, but I would say that yes, it's very important to be agnostic in the beginning and to try and evaluate the proposed tools that are available on the market to make sure that you choose the right one for you. This is the answer. Like the same as yours, Shiv, but short.
And yeah, I think we have the similar question, which I think you have the similar answer. Are the tools support the implementation of all DAMA domains? So, like, I think the user wanted to ask, like, are there any tools to support the implementation of all DAMA domains?
Unfortunately, no. There is no one tool which can support all, and every tool has its strengths and weaknesses. So what we would propose is to have a combination of tools. A simple example, maybe your organization already has Informatica, because we know that Informatica has a very strong footprint in the Middle Eastern region. Maybe that you have, but for data modeling and reference data management, maybe it's not the strongest tool. So maybe you have to think more comprehensively. Or for business intelligence, that's not the role of Informatica, right? So you need to do proper governance in the right BI tool and your data warehouse, and maybe you're thinking about the cloud. So, and in the cloud, there are also different managed services available. So combination of tools would be highly recommended. Pick the one which is best for different things and how they integrate with each other. Obviously, we don't recommend to have like hundreds of tools for different purposes, but there are combinations which we have worked with, which work very well, which minimize the amount of let's say tools in your architecture. But having one tool, in our experience, trying to cover as much as possible is really not usually a good idea, because you're forcing certain use cases which they're not meant for. So try to work with a combination of tools.
Right. And also it depends on like from company to company and use case to use case. So we're here to help you make those decisions, provided like, given your specific situation. So we will help you guide, but ultimately you'll have to choose like which tool will be, best for your organization. So one last question. How do you envision the evolving role of data compliance in Saudi? And are there any key challenges organizations face navigating NDMO regulations?
So it's a rather wide question. I'll try to answer, but definitely Nikita, please add to it. So I think the priority should definitely be trying to cover these P1, P2, P3, and many organizations, when we talk to them, they are at very, very early early in their journey in all these. So maybe things will change. We are not able to anticipate how exactly they will change, but already many organizations are behind the deadlines which these DIA and NDMO have set up. So priority should be trying to focus on meeting them. Maybe there are no consequences now, but with time maybe they will get stricter with their the same pattern happened with GDPR for many after 2016. For many years, 2-3 years, things were not happening, but suddenly some incident happened and they started the different countries in Europe started to start finding things to make sure people are compliant. So maybe the things will change in next 2 to 3 years, but we would still recommend to focus on trying to get as much as not only paper compliance, but actual real technological enablement and automation of this compliance as well. So I know I was not able to answer how it will evolve, but that would be my recommendation to follow here as well.
And from the challenges, probably I would add some. So maybe like two. One is about, even though it can sound simple, but actually identifying the assets where you have sensitive data, it's quite a challenging topic that is going to require quite some time and resources. And then it's a very essential part, as we mentioned, of both PDPL and the NDMO, but not only that, but also it's very much related to the data breaches that you can have if you don't know where your personal data is stored, and if not your personal data, but sensitive data is stored, and if the sensitive data is adequately protected. And another one is obviously a resource constraint. So we understand that when there are always conflicting priorities, right? That you always prefer to keep doing things the old way, and always change requires commitment and it requires investment of your time and effort. But at this point, we're moving in KSA to the point in time where this change is really needed, and the company in the last several years have developed significantly, and the ongoing growth, this unstructured growth from the data perspective, is becoming like a snowball. And if you keep waiting longer and longer and longer, the longer you wait, the more resources you'll have to invest in the later stage. So it's very important to start doing this now. So this is just two things to add to Shiv's answer.
If it triggered one more thing, sorry, Syed, one more thing when Nikita mentioned about challenges, I would like to share. So scalability is very important. So if you're a small organization, then probably centralized approach is absolutely fine. But if you're a large organization, the centralized approach will not work. I think I mentioned it before as well. And then you will have to use some sort of either decentralized or federated approach. Federated, we recommend, meaning that, of course, you have a data governance team, which is setting up the policies and processes, but then training these various different data domains and assigning the data owners and stewards, and they should do it. And so this is another challenge of assigning, categorizing different data assets which you have in the company to different data domains. That's a challenge. An even bigger challenge, because people, is to then tell people that now you're owner of this, or you should be an owner of this, and then there's a challenge about that as well. So it can be connected to the previous answer about KPIs or getting the voluntary volunteership from them that they will take care of these domains. So that's another challenge which we saw associated with scaling, to assign to do federated approach, assign the data assets, and then tell people and request people that they should now start doing extra work for taking care of this data and making sure it's compliant with the standards.
Right. Yeah, thanks for those answers. I think we are at we've pretty much covered everything. I would firstly thank you, Shiv and Nikita, for walking us through all the NDMO related details, and and thank you everyone for joining the call, taking time out to join this call. We have we'll reach out to you via email. We'll provide you with the deck and much more details about our services and how we can help your company tackle these regulatory challenges. Shiv, Nikita, if you have any closing comments, please.
I think maybe one thing I would like to reiterate. So, and I've already mentioned it several times with different words, but it's very important to see NDMO as an opportunity for growth. and not that something else that is going to limit you. Because even though that you can think that the regulator is just trying like to squeeze you and like to apply more and more regulations to make your life more complicated, in fact, it's not true. And we see that the government, as KSA, is very much committed to Vision 2030. And this is specifically done to make sure that you're gaining maturity, like in terms of data management, in a very fast way. Not like the other market that had to develop these skills over like, I don't know, the last 30 years when we had just started like building the first data warehouses in 90s, right? But you have a very limited time for this. And we really hope that you'll be able to achieve your goals, and we're here to support you. So, and Shiv, if you want to add something.
I would just say that thank you very much for your time and attending this webinar. And please feel free to reach out to us if you have more questions. If certain topics you would like us to talk more, we can organize even further such webinars for different topics to explore more deep dive. This was a very big picture overview, and we hope that it was not just high level view, but some operational tips we were able to provide you. So yeah, thank you very much.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, please feel free to reach out. Ya'tikum al-afiyah. Assalamu alaikum.